What is happening, y'all? FightinCowboy here. Welcome on back. And as we continue along and push through to the end of Castle Redmane, up next we have the Misbegotten Warrior and the Crucible Knight. Heard that right. This is going to be a double boss fight. And as such, there's a couple things that you're going to want to be aware of. Now, when you first enter the arena, the Misbegotten Warrior will already be spawned in, but you'll have a short duration before the Crucible Knight appears. And during this time, you should be going absolutely hard as possible on the Misbegotten Warrior. You might need to play a little bit risky to get a big critical attack like I just did right here, but whether you're doing this by yourself or with your Ashen summon, you don't want to have to fight the two of them together. Now, once the fight with the Crucible Knight begins, if you are skilled at parrying, you'll learn that Crucible Knights are essentially parry bait. Every single sword swing that a Crucible Knight does can be parried, and so you can effectively do this and punish them to an extreme level. The stomp of the Crucible Knight is another one to look out for. Anytime you see the foot come down, if you do a quick hop, you'll avoid all incoming damage. Now, when it comes to learning the parry timing of the Crucible Knight, it is going to take a little bit of practice. If you go too early or too late, you're going to get what's known as a partial parry, and that's going to be where you'll still have stamina consumed, but you'll take some damage from the hit. As a general rule of thumb, bucklers are going to be the best, followed by small shields, followed by medium shields. Personally, I find the parry timing of small shields to just be what I'm most used to, but practice with different shields and find out what is going to work the best for you, because this is an invaluable skill to have, and you're going to be fighting a lot more Crucible Knights in your journeys. Additionally, if you're struggling a lot, you can go over to this Everjail back over in Limgrave, which also has a Crucible Knight that you can use as parry practice, since you won't have to worry about fighting the Misbegotten Warrior every time before. Some other things to call attention to are the Winged Charge, which you should always roll through when it's coming your way, and then the Shield Bash, which you should roll into. These moves look very threatening, but rolling right into them, your iframes will negate all threat. Also, a fun little tidbit, after a parry and you go in and get your critical, depending on what weapon you can do, you might be able to squeak in a free heavy attack as well for some extra damage. So, with all that being said, let's head on in. We're going to go ahead and pop our Wondrous Flask in advance, and then as soon as I get in there, I'm going to go ahead and pop Caden. Now, I really don't expect this fight to be all that hard for us here, but as I mentioned, first thing we're going to be doing is focusing straight in on the Misbegotten Warrior. Going to be trying to get as much damage as possible. There we go. Got a critical. This is probably going to bring him pretty close to a finished off state. There it is. And with him down, now we can focus on the Crucible Knight together. Now, the parry strategy that I just went into, that is mostly applicable when you're fighting Crucible Knights alone. If you have something that can distract them, getting charged heavies and hitting them directly on in the back is going to be huge damage, as you just saw. If you're playing as a mage, there's a spell you might want to hunt down called Ambush Shard. It's going to generate a small spell behind the Crucible Knight, which will then come towards you and hit him in the back. Definitely a very, very useful spell for dealing with enemies that like to turtle up behind shields, such as this. I mean, honestly, that's one of the best opportunities to get off the heel too, that charge, because it gives you so much space. And even if you're not comfortable with parrying, honestly, if you just keep backing away and keep forcing space, eventually, as you can see, he's going to aggro on Caden. He's not going to want to chase you around. And you can just go ahead and get those big, beefy hits from behind. And here, if I run away, oh, the shield. Caden, and for that, we'll pay. But with the double boss defeated, you get one of the legendary weapons and arguably one of the best strength weapons in the game, the Ruin's Greatsword. Now, this is the main weapon I was referring to when I said you might want to consider leveling up strength. On top of having 15 int, so you could rock the Carrion Knight Shield, you can then use the Ruin's Greatsword. Now, the FP cost on this thing is very strong, but Wave of Destruction is a unique skill and certainly one of the most devastating skills in the game. In terms of doing AoE damage, it is just going to clear an entire line of enemies out in front of you. On top of that, it does have split damage with physical and magic, but it does have very, very high AR. So if you have decided to put a little bit of points into intelligence, this is one of the weapons that you should be working towards. It is extremely powerful. But after we go ahead and take that boss down, immediately, at least, we don't see anything. So what we have to do is go talk to Dran, and then we're going to go talk to EG, and then we're going to warp back, and the festival will have started. Now, as I mentioned, when you come over here, the festival may have already started. If it does, you're not going to have anything in Redmane Castle. You're not going to have anything right here where those enemies are. In fact, you're just going to run. You're going to run straight over here. There's going to be talk of the festival. You'll come on up here, and then you'll make your way on over to the boss, which is just past him. But since we are taking the slower approach, we want to come on over here. We're going to talk to Jaren. He's going to talk about the alignment of the stars. If you are familiar with EG and you've been doing the Ronnie questline, there will be a mention of EG. So we can go ahead and do that after the About EG comment. We can then warp over here to the Road to the Manor Grace back over in Liurnia. This is where EG was. And we're going to go over here and talk to him. And we can mention about Jaren.
Before taking up the banner and expert, no surprise. Oh no, how did I not see? I ought to retire as, let me explain. As is a general who stood up and so as
he's going to mention that by going after General Radahn, this is going to end up triggering the festival, and by doing so, Ronnie's fate will continue. And then when we warp back on over to the Redmane Castle Plaza, things will have changed, and you can see the festival is now ready to begin. Jaren up top there, and a bunch of people who can join in on the festival. So go ahead and run around, talk to all these NPCs. Some of them will even give you something. Talking to her, you'll get the polite bow. But either way, from here, it is time for one of the most glorious bosses that FromSoft has ever created, Radahn. So make sure to stay tuned, and we're going to catch you as we take on Radahn in the next part.